Okay, so the Golden State Warriors, they go into Toronto in game 2, and they tie the series up. This was an insane game, and it just showed the Warriors are unbelievable. They fought through so much adversity, it's insane. We already know Kevin Durant has been out, but Looney goes down, Klay Thompson goes down, and their whole team from top to bottom step up. Whether it was Steph Curry getting hot, Draymond Green being a spark plug that he is, DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie Cousins doing what he did. Now, he performed and had 28 minutes in this basketball game. The guy came off of 2 huge injuries this season, and he hasn't been in shape, and gets thrown in and provides that type of spark. A double-double, 6 assists on top of that. The guy was truly special. He worked players like Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. They came out there and DeMarcus Cousins was a big factor with that. Iguodala, I talked about it in Game 1. He had open looks for 3 in Game 1, didn't really make any. Where did his offensive game go? In Game 2, he was hitting threes, and he came up so big with a late three-pointer to essentially end the ball game. Andrew Bogut, he stepped up at times. Cook, when Klay Thompson goes out, this guy comes in and hits three-pointers consistently. They just had the depth perform today. Sean Livingston came in for minutes. It was ridiculous what I saw out of the Golden State Warriors and how they actually pursued, rallied, and found a way to win. Their 18-0 run in the third quarter, it's absurd. It literally is absurd, and it started with the defensive side of the basketball. In the first half, it was all Toronto. Toronto came out with that defensive intensity again. They were up double digits. Well, before that 18-0 run in the third quarter actually began, I will say this, I think it actually started at the end of the second quarter when Steph Curry was getting going. He was out of rhythm, out of sorts all over the place in the first in the first half. He was sick, he wasn't feeling good, he wasn't making his shots. Very late there in that first half, he started to get going just a tad. He had a 3, he had a layup that started his spark, and from there, the team got into rhythm. The defensive intensity for the Warriors was literally almost as good as what the Toronto Raptors have shown us all playoff long, and it was a true difference maker. You have to give credit to Steve Kerr and what he did for adjustments, putting Klay on Kawhi Leonard. You have Draymond Green and Iguodala getting thrown on Siakam, Lowry. That caused all sorts of problems for the Toronto Raptors. They couldn't score at all in the third quarter. Now, I will say they missed some shots that were open, but they also were guarded so heavily and the Warriors started to create turnovers, and it was a problem. You need to give credit to this Warriors basketball team because they made it happen. They did. They made it happen. They went in there and went into a hostile environment. That second half start was ridiculous. It was a game-changing performance by the whole entire ball club, and it was insane. It shows why this team is so special. Now, in regards to where Klay Thompson is with that hamstring, I don't know. It looked serious. Steve Kerr, after the game, stated Klay doesn't think it's that bad. It seemed pretty damn serious, and who knows what the status on Looney is. Who knows what the status on Kevin Durant is. This could be a wild run when it comes to injuries for this Warriors team. We're just going to have to wait to see how it plays out. Now, luckily for the Warriors, when it comes to the NBA Finals, there's so many days involved here rest-wise, especially when you're traveling through cities, so there's some time until I think Game 3 is Wednesday in Oracle, and that's going to be a tough spot for the Toronto Raptors. It seemed like they let one slip, and I've mentioned this so many times. The first 2 games in Toronto, they need to be thought as must-win games going back to Oracle, because if the Warriors do take care of business at home, 3-1 is a tough spot to come back to, and it's not impossible for Toronto to win in those situations, but the Golden State Warriors at home is tough, especially in the NBA Finals. We're going to have to see how it all plays out. Siakam and Marc Gasol in Game 1 scored a total of 52 points. Today, 18. Where was Marc Gasol? Shut down. Where was he? See, one thing I loved about the way the Warriors attacked this, There were a lot of plays, plenty of people moving, cuts to the basket, nice plays, layups. Andrew Bogut had a nice amount of alley-oops. They weren't just settling. When they needed buckets, they had plays running, people moving, lots of screen set, people all over the place, cutting back door, layups. They made it happen. They executed. They were scoring at will. They made it happen. They do that. It's tough to defend. I'm not saying the Toronto Raptors were just horrendous in those situations. The Golden State Warriors are so solid and have been so successful because they make things happen like that. Because offensively, they find ways to get people open and then they make those shots. One person that might get unnoticed in this game, if you look at the stats, he shouldn't, but Draymond Green almost had another triple-double. Now, he didn't have a triple-double this game. He did game one. He was way more involved today than he was in game one, even though he didn't get the triple-double. He made plays happen. Defensively, he was just a pest. He was annoying. He was emotional. He was the leader of this team when it comes to playing with that confidence, with that emotion. He wears it on his sleeve, and it was something where the team built off that energy. They fed off Draymond Green. They fed off of his hardworking play, and that's what emotional players do. They play with that attitude to create this spark and this momentum for their teammates. And I thought Draymond Green did that in a really great fashion today. This game was entertaining in my opinion. It got close super late. Technical fouls on Steph Curry, replays in super slow-mo, putting the ball back in the Raptors' hands. Steph Curry all over the place late in that possession where Iguodala hit it. He gives it to Draymond. Nick Nurse wants the Raptors to go foul Draymond. They give it back to Steph. He gets double-teamed by the half court. He's dribbling around, stumbling, kicking it out. The Livingston pulls it to Iguodala. It was a crazy sequence. And at this point, it was a 2-point game. It got so close because when Klay went down and other people went in, there was about 5 minutes where the Warriors struggled to get anything going. But late, when it mattered, and Iguodala there, a couple seconds left on the shot clock, pulled it, made it happen. Been there before, veteran, finals MVP, even though it was for the defensive efforts. He's been there before and made a huge shot for this Warriors team, something he didn't do in game one when he had open looks. He wouldn't hit them. Now, one thing I will say, if you are in the States and you are watching on ABC, I cannot stand Van Gundy as a commentator. Can't stand him. He stinks. He's horrendous. He is garbage. I don't know how he is in the position to do all these big games. Van Gundy to me is annoying. He complains all the time. All he does is bitch and moan and then argues with Mark Jackson with everything he says. Because Mark Jackson stated something like, Iguodala, that's a big shot and he's a veteran. Van Gundy calls him out and says, you just say that's a good shot because he made it. If you missed it, you would have ripped him apart. That's a terrible shot. Shut up. Just shut up. I hate Van Gundy. He bothers the hell out of me. I don't know why I'm ranting so much about the commentators, but they bother me. Steph Curry, not the best shooting performance, but he started out slow, but he did get in rhythm. He did find his way. He had a couple Steph Curry-like shots where he's pulling up insanely. He almost drained a almost three-quarter length shot there at one point. I think it was at the end of the first quarter. Just bounced off the first rim. He had a game where he scored 23 points. He helped lead this team. It wasn't the most Steph Curry-like game ever, but he went through spurts of aggressiveness. He went through spurts of, whoa, okay, those are the shots that Steph Curry makes. But it wasn't like that all game. It was enough, though. And my biggest takeaway, obviously, was that third quarter 18-0 run, but it started defensively. Their intensity, their aggressiveness defensively during that time, it created their offense. Now, it's crazy to say this, because Toronto had 12 more shots total, and 15 offensive rebounds. The second chance scoring opportunities for the Raptors were literally insane. So when you take a look at that, it's wild to even think how the Warriors pulled this off. One run potentially ended up being the difference in this game, and it was no small run. 18-0 run is obnoxiously large. But it is crazy to say that the Warriors came away from this game with a victory. That shows how good the Warriors are. And I look at the Raptors and say, did that kill confidence moving forward, going back to Oracle now? Having Kawhi Leonard score 34 and have how many double-digit rebounds he had? It's on here somewhere. There's so many notes for this game. Kawhi, 34 and 14. To have an effort like that. For Van Vliet to have a nice little game off the bench. To waste that? Where are you now? Because no one else really stepped up besides those two, in my opinion. You didn't have the Siakam of game one. You didn't really have the Danny Green. Kyle Lowry fouled out, even though he provided defensive efforts and had the crowd roaring early in this game. He fouled out. And he fouled out on a stupid play on his part, by the way. He complains. See, I love his efforts. I know he's a Philly guy. He brings defense. I love defense. He complains way too much for my liking. If you're going to be a defensive pest, be a defensive pest. Don't get up every single play and look at the referees like this. What are you doing? For example, he did that on the last play. Dude, what do you mean? You're coming from behind off a defensive rebound and you smack Boogie's arm. That's stupid. That's stupid on your part. So I respect Kyle Lowry's efforts, but I hate the way he complains literally every single play that doesn't go his way. But he didn't step up very well today. He wasn't solid today, in my opinion. Not enough. Not enough. So with that being said, I want to know your thoughts down below on this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.